The mayor of Kyiv visiting citizens taking shelter in a subway where people have been hiding for several days. That's life now in that great European city. Several of them broke down in tears today, understandably, as President Zelensky made the rounds there. The mayor says the mood in Kyiv remains patriotic and determined, and he adds that everyone is proud of Ukraine's soldiers. And joining us now with the latest on the ground in Ukraine, we've got ABC News senior investigative reporter Aaron Katersky and ABC News contributor and former deputy DHS chief of staff and counterterrorism expert Elizabeth Newman. So, Aaron, let me begin with you on this President Zelensky. He said he didn't know how much longer they could hold out, and it's understandable given the bombardment, the Russian change in tactics. Now they're just going to throw bombs and artillery at these cities. We saw those people huddled in the subway station. Is it getting darker on the ground, the mood there of where this is headed?
It is, Terry, and I've heard two competing thoughts in the minds of some Ukrainians. On the one hand, if you're willing to move down into the subway with your family for the foreseeable future because you're too scared to be on the street, given what happens night after night at any given time, there's palpable fear. And we've seen that, too, in the refugee crisis, the fastest exodus that the United Nations can remember in recent history of more than 1 million people fleeing Ukraine for safer ground in a different country. But I tell you, I've also heard a real determination on the part of people here to band together so they don't have to live under the thumb of the Russians. Just a couple of blocks from here, Terry, I was with a group of men waiting in the cold for several hours to get a gun permit. One was a dentist, one was a design studio owner who has international clients, including Russians, and he said now he just wants the right paperwork so he can pick up a gun and fight the Russians if it comes to that. He said, if you want peace, you need to be prepared for war.
Meanwhile, Aaron, this bit of a secret press conference that Vladimir Putin had today, what were the takeaways for you? There's been a lot of analyzing conversation on how he appeared, how he sounded. What's your take?
Well, just to listen to what he said, that things are going entirely according to plan and the mission is being carried out as foreseen, doesn't sound like a leader who is particularly concerned about a stalled convoy north of Kyiv or about some dissension in the ranks or about some food or fuel or logistical problems. This is someone who is determined to carry out what he has been planning for quite some time, seemingly, and that aligns with his vision that Ukraine is just a backwater that rightfully belongs to Russia, filled with a bunch of Nazis. And that evocative language still comes from his lips, even as the international community makes Russia a pariah state. It also doesn't sound like somebody who is terribly upset if this goes on for a while. Ukrainian forces have been bombarded, particularly in the south. That could threaten to cut off Ukraine's access to the Black Sea. It would also give Russian troops another place to advance from the south onto Kyiv. It could take a while, but judging from Vladimir Putin today, he doesn't seem to mind if it takes a while.
Well, Aaron, it's a heck of a plan. If that is the plan, the armored columns seem to be bogged down. There's maintenance issues. The soldiers seem hungry. It's a heck of a plan that they're executing there. But let me turn now to the other part of this war, really, and that's the economy. And let's go to Elizabeth on that. Elizabeth, the Biden administration today announcing these new sanctions against oligarchs this afternoon. Oligarch, by the way, we never say what it is. Just a rich guy who controls, always men, who control a ton of one industry. They're basically awarded control of energy, of industry in countries like this. So 19 oligarchs, 47 of their relatives and close associates from traveling to the United States. So is this symbolic? I mean, what's the impact of these sanctions so far on Russia's richest, who are essentially accomplices in this regime?
Right. So, Terry, I think the travel maybe is not bothering them too much, but it also basically cut them off of the U.S. financial system, and it's targeting the family members. And anybody with children knows that when you start messing with the kids, it changes your calculus a little bit. And it looks like what they're focusing on is finding those oligarchs, as well as one of the people being sanctioned today is actually the Kremlin spokesperson. They're looking for the people that are close to Putin, the people that might be able to whisper in his ear that enough is enough, you got to cut it off, cut it out. So we know that these sanctions take time to really have their full measure felt, and I don't think this is the only round that we're going to see. It does take time to do all of the legal work, to do the investigations, to be able to show the paper trail and justify under U.S. law why sanctions are necessary. So I think this has maybe gone a little slower than ideally it would have, but I imagine we'll see more and hopefully tighten that noose around Putin. In the hopes, I suppose, that they'll do something, that they and maybe the generals who are watching their country just basically be driven backwards by Putin. Maybe there's some kind of palace coup, but that's not in the Russian tradition for sure. Aaron, I want to talk about the peace talks today, which seems odd. It seems like neither side is willing to stop fighting. Ukraine is fighting for its freedom, for its very existence as a state. Putin saying again that he doesn't think Ukraine is an independent country. Russians fighting because they're already there, and Putin shows no signs of letting up. But is there some agreement, humanitarian agreement? Now, those humanitarian corridors for cities to leave, for citizens to leave those besieged cities. But that can also be a trick, as we've seen in Syria and elsewhere, where the humanitarian corridors get closed off very brutally. What's your read of the peace talks right now, Aaron?
Yeah, and that is the ultimate fear, isn't it? That Russia just turns to its familiar brutalist tactics that we've seen in Aleppo or in Grozny, and U.S. officials have been talking openly about parts of this country turning into a Chechnya type war. But the peace talks today, if you take what happened at face value, there was no agreement to end the fighting, but the Ukrainians and the Russians did appear to at least agree to keep talking, and in the interim, to open some humanitarian corridors, to allow civilians to flee, and to allow some humanitarian aid in. And we know the needs are only growing by the hour. In the hardest hit urban areas in the east, you'll forgive me, we have another air raid siren going off here. At a moment's notice, it happens. In the most hard-hit areas in the east, there are shortages of food and fuel and medicine. The World Health Organization said it's very concerned about oxygen supplies running low. There are also needs like obstetrics, because women are having babies in bunkers and in basements. There is a need everywhere for all sorts of supplies. So if they can get in, if there is any kind of a temporary pause for at least
Aaron, we should probably let you
it would
go.
be meaningful.
Our gut is that we need to let you go. I know you hear these air sirens quite a bit, but we're getting the sense it's time for you to head out. We are making the call. Aaron, out.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.